So, J. Ruud, what lovable book are we talking about today?
Well, Stacey Margaret Jones, I'll give you a hint. Smallpox.
Have I read this?
No, you have not.
Welcome to Between the Covers, the weekly podcast in which author J. Ruud shares why he chose one of the books from his 100 most lovable novels in the English language list with us, and I, author Stacey Margaret Jones, walk him through it. So I guess what the book is, and then I ask questions. All right. So I'm trying to guess today's book, Smallpox, and I haven't read it. We've been together for a long time when I can ask him if I've read a book and he can tell me definitively whether I ever have it. So I need another hint.
All right, hint number 2. Lady Honoria Dedlock.
Okay, it sounds like Woodhouse. But we already did a Woodhouse.
We did.
It sounds a little trollopy. We just did a trollop.
We did.
So I don't think it's either one of those. Give me the final hint.
John Dice versus John Dice.
Bleak House by
Bleak
Charles
House.
Dickens.
Yeah, it is indeed what it is.
I have not read this book, and you know it since we talk all the time about whether we should read it aloud or not. Awesome. All right, Bleak House.
Bleak House.
This podcast, dear friends, will be the final deciding factor on whether we read Bleak House or not this year.
Okay.
I'm very open to it. Okay, well, when did this book come out and how long is it? Because I'll tell you, I think the answer to that second question is why I haven't read it yet.
Well, let me deal with the second question first. I can tell you exactly how long this book is.
I'm so excited for this episode.
355,936 words.
Okay. How many pages?
Well,
I know there's different editions, but...
Yeah, so it depends. So the word count is the most accurate.
Right, but I don't have a way of understanding that.
Well, let's just say if I write a novel, it's usually between 80,000 and 100,000 words.
Oh, okay.
So you can figure like 100,000 words might be 300 pages. So this is 355,936.
So 1,000 pages, 900 to 1,000 pages?
Probably.
Okay.
Or 800, depending on how small the print is.
Okay.
But it's interesting that a lot of Dickens novels are around the same length. We've already talked about David Copperfield a while back.
Yeah.
So this is the second Dickens novel. I said at the very beginning that I was going to try to have as many different novelists as possible.
So that was part of your criteria, was that you were going to look for different people to be represented.
Yeah, but that there were 2 authors I didn't feel I could possibly do justice with just one of their books.
And this is one.
One of them was Jane Austen. We talked about Pride and Prejudice and Emma. And the other one is Charles Dickens.
And now that we're moving into the second half of the podcast, because we've done more than 50.
We're over the hump.
So we got to have Dickens roll around again.
Dickens has rolled around again.
Okay, so these are our 2 repeat authors.
Yeah.
Then. What year did it come out? You didn't get back to that.
No, I didn't. I was going to mention what other novels are about the same length.
Oh, sorry.
One, David Copperfield is actually the longest of Dickens novels.
Oh, okay.
It's 357,000 and change, so it's about 2,000 words longer than Bleak House. And the second longest of Dickens' novels is Dombey and Sons, which is 357,484 words. It's 5 words shorter than David Copperfield.
Oh, okay.
And the reason I think all these books, there's also Little Dorrit, Martin Chuzzlewit, our mutual friend,
Great
Nicholas Nickleby, and Pickwick Papers, all of which are over 300,000 words.
Great Expectations isn't?
Great Expectations is one of the short ones.
Oh, okay.
Great Expectations is 186,000 words, so it's only about half the length of David Copperfield or Bleak House, yeah. But all those other ones are over 300,000 words, and probably the reason for that is, maybe two reasons for that, the serialization.
Oh, right.
You contract for this number of episodes that you're going to serialize, and each one of those is a certain number of words.
And you get paid more if it's longer serial.
Yeah. So, Dickens was kind of in the groove. This is how long his books were going to be.
Right.
But as far as the date goes, this was published in 1851.
Okay.
It was begun in 1851.
Okay.
It actually was published finally in book form in 1852.
Okay.
And that's a significant year because 1851 is right after the famous Great Exhibition in the Crystal Palace of London, which was incredibly popular. It was like the very first World's Fair in the world, and it was championed by Prince Albert himself. And the theme was, it was the Great Exhibition of the works of industry of all nations.
Right.
And had two main purposes. One was to extol technology as the key to human progress toward a brighter future. And the second objective was to make sure everybody knew that British industrial technology was the greatest in the world.
Right. And Prince Albert was all up in that grill.
Yes, he was. This is in the middle of the century that already had given us steam power in the form of railroads and steamships. So transportation had been revolutionized. It's shortly after the development of the telegraph, so communication is being...
it's industrial age.
Yeah.
It's celebrating the industrial age.
Yeah, and those are two things in particular that were a sign of the brighter future that technology was going to bring us. But Dickens had his doubts
about
the positive effects of technology. He turns after 1850 to a lot more social criticism in his books. One of his later books from 1854 is Hard Times, which is about factory workers and their difficulties. Bleak House is the first book after that, and people kind of see him as taking a turn to sort of a darker kind of novel.
Well, it
less
might
sentimental.
be like an author now looking at how the information age is impacting human existence, and human well-being, and health.
Yeah, it's exactly that sort of thing.
Right, because this is what they're dealing with, is the transition from an agrarian society into an industrialized one. And he's saying, it's not great for everybody, right?
Yeah.
And probably like any kind of shift like that, it's going to hurt the marginalized first and hardest and worst.
Yeah.
So, okay, well, we kind of went down a rabbit hole there.
Well, you wanted to know about when it was written and it's significant when it was written.
That's why I asked you when it is written, because I don't think there's any writing you can look at outside of context.
Yeah.
Since we spent some time on that question, why don't you just give us the super highlights of who else likes this novel, because it's going to be on a lot of lists, so you don't need to read us the giant list of lists.
I will not.
Give us some of your absolute favorites.
It appears as number 6 on the BBC list of the 100 greatest British novels. It was 25th on Entertainment Weekly's Top 100 Novels, 75th on Penguin Classics list of its readers' 100 must-read classics, 79th on the BBC's Big Read, and it was included among Bookman's list of the 100 favorite novels of librarians, and the Sunday Times list of 100 books to love.
Oh, there you go.
So
well, good job.
This is in my lovable books
Okay.
pile.
It's interesting to me because you chose David Copperfield, which I think a lot of people, think of that book when they think of Dickens. But I don't know how many people think of Bleak House right away when they think of Dickens. I haven't read much Dickens, actually. We read A Tale of Two Cities aloud.
Yeah.
And then I think that might be all I've read, except for maybe A Christmas Carol.
Yeah. Well, those are actually two possibilities I could have included on the most lovable books list, because everybody knows A Christmas Carol. Everybody loves A Christmas Carol. And Tale of Two Cities is still considered among the 2 or 3 best-selling novels of all time.
And it's foundational. I mean, there's a lot, I think, in our culture that goes back to that novel.
Yeah.
Just little allusions, much less things that are kind of inspired by it and based on it, etc.
And it has one of the most famous openings of any novel. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. And it has one of the most famous closings of any novel.
No spoilers.
'Tis a far, far better thing I do than I have ever done. So that's either one of those would have been kind of a natural choice. But the 4 novels of Dickens that critics love the most are David Copperfield, Great Expectations, Dombey and Sons.
Gosh, I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't have been able to name that if you told me to make a list.
It's not that popular, but critics love it.
Okay.
And Bleak House.
Right. Okay. Interesting. Well, before we go into why you love Bleak House, even though I'm not a big Dickens reader, it's always been on my list of books to read because it was featured in. If any listeners remember this show, please shout out. That TV show Sisters, which was kind of a nighttime soap that was on NBC, maybe I can't remember when, in the maybe 90s.
There's a deep cut.
Yeah, there it was. Celia Ward was on it, and oh my God, she's so beautiful, and I love her voice. So it was 4 sisters that lived in Winnetka, and they all had nicknames that were boys' names. Like her name was Teddy, there was Georgie, I can't remember the other, Frankie. And then there was an episode that was a holiday episode, and she was hauling around Bleak House with her and reading Bleak House because she wasn't in the mood for the holiday. And Dickens was a character, and she would be by herself reading the book, and then she would turn and talk to Dickens. And I was like, what is this book? Anyway, I always was like, maybe I should read that because it's one of those things when you're young and something kind of worms its way into your psyche and never leaves. Anytime somebody says Jarndyce versus Jarndyce, I just think of Teddy and Winnetka sitting on the swing outside during Thanksgiving dinner, reading Bleak House and talking to Dickens. So,
and how many times do people say Jarndyce versus Jarndyce?
We need to find Sisters on streaming. I need to watch it, and then I can answer your question. But I just loved that show. I suppose now I'd watch it. I don't know if it holds up. I'll report back. But
okay, great.
So let's talk a little bit more about it specifically, so I can decide if I really want to read it or if I'm just being influenced by Sisters.
Okay.
I need the down and dirty summary. I think I might know. It's about a law case.
That is central to it, yeah.
Yes. Okay. So give me the down and dirty summary and see if you can get the harps of glory or the trombones of despair.
Well, the lawsuit of Jarndyce and Jarndyce concerning the contesting of at least 2 conflicting wills left by a Jarndyce family patriarch has dragged on for decades in the High Court of Chancery and left different branches of the Jarndyce family waiting in vain for an inheritance that convoluted legal manipulations threatened to blockade indefinitely. One of the would-be beneficiaries of the wills is Lady Honoria Dedlock, who is married to Sir Leicester Dedlock.
That just sounds like a spoof name. Like Deadlock, it's kind of...
Yeah,
that's kind of on the nose there, Charles.
Well, yeah. Well, Dedlock does seem to be a good name to be involved with Jarndyce versus Jarndyce, which has
I know
been
that's
going
what I'm saying.
On,
like
yeah.
if I put that in a MFA program piece, somebody would be like, "That's too easy. Don't do that."
Well,
anyway.
Another of the proposed beneficiaries is John Jarndyce, who has pretty much given up. In fact, he believes that even paying attention to the lawsuit will drive you crazy. So he pays no attention to it, and he takes on two other would-be heirs who are his distant cousins, Richard Carstone and Ada Clare.
Is this the down and dirty stuff?
I'm just trying to set it up.
Okay. Yeah. No. Okay.
And there's another woman in the house that he has adopted as his ward, basically, whose name is Esther Summerson. And it's how this all works out among those people and others that gives you the plot of the book.
Okay, you just barely pulled out the harps of glory. You were going down in flames in trombone of despair, but you pulled it out at the last minute. So yay for you.
Okay, then.
All right. So
I got over the hardest part of this.
well, I mean, honestly, I would give it was probably mid, because anytime you start telling me who characters are and how they're related to each other, that is not stuff for the down and dirty summary. But let's not get bogged down there. So why is it lovable? Like, there's so many famous Dickens books, and like I said, this isn't one that often comes to mind for a lot of people. Why did you choose this one?
It has great characters, not the kinds of Dickensian characters that you find, say, in David Copperfield, many of whom are sort of exaggerated and funny. But it does have characters who are really well drawn and immediately gain your sympathy or your hatred. There are some who are pretty bad. So the characters have a lot to do with it. The satire of the society, especially the law courts, is engaging. And in particular, there are a few mysteries that are you are kind of wondering about through the book.
Suspense?
Especially as you get toward the end, there's a lot of suspense.
What kind of mysteries? What do you...
Well, when Lady Dedlock is with her husband and they're getting a report from their lawyer, whose name is Tulkinghorn.
Okay.
He reports in a very kind of deadbeat voice, without expression. He shows no emotion toward anything. But at one point, he is reporting something, and he has a paper in his hand, and Lady Dedlock recognizes the handwriting on the paper. And it seems like it's something that's pretty important to her, but she kind of just offhandedly says, who wrote that? It looks familiar to me. And he doesn't know, but he finds out. And this is a mystery. What's the relationship between Lady Dedlock and the guy that wrote this?
Mm-hmm. So you want
he's a copier for the law.
Oh, he's just a clerk.
Yeah, he's not even that. He's like a clerk that doesn't have a permanent job there. They just hire out the writings.
Oh, okay.
So who is this guy? How are they related? Why does she care? And that's a mystery that really goes through much of the novel.
Yeah.
And different things kind of give you hints.
Yeah.
There's also a mystery of who Esther Summerson's parents are. Mm-hmm. She was raised by a pretty cruel godmother who apparently was her aunt. Mm-hmm. But we don't know who her mother was. We don't know who her father was. We know that the aunt hated the mother and disowned her, but took the child to raise as her own anyway, but raises her really strictly. And it's when she dies that John Jarndyce, who just happens to know through some common acquaintances who this woman was and who the goddaughter was, and knows that she has nobody once that woman's died. So he pays for her schooling. Mm-hmm. He invites her into his house mainly to be a companion for the distant cousin Ada that he's just taken on as his ward. But who are Esther's parents? That's a mystery. You don't think about it until later on when it really becomes an issue. But it's another mystery in the book. And there's a character, there's a police detective who is hired by Sir Leicester Dedlock to look into certain aspects of this case. But then there is a point late in the novel where Lady Dedlock actually runs away. And this detective has to try to find her. So it's really a kind of a detective story. It becomes more of a detective story when Tulkinghorn, the lawyer, is murdered.
Oh,
so it becomes a murder mystery. And so all of those things are interesting. So this is kind of the first, one of the first murder mysteries in a novel. At the same time, Dickens is writing, his friend Wilkie Collins is really kind of beginning detective novels with things like The Woman in White.
Okay.
So Dickens is kind of catching on to that kind of new trend.
Were these mysteries part of the structure of the serialization to keep you kind of waiting till the next time? You know, like the murder occurs and then you have to wait till next time to read more about it, or...
Probably they were. Dickens may not have had in mind exactly to make it into kind of a detective fiction when he started. But it certainly developed that way as he was working on his serial episodes.
Well, that surprises me. So it's the mystery that you like, and the characters.
Yeah.
And
the social commentary.
Yeah, about their lives being impacted by this massive social change.
Yes, and this lawsuit.
Right.
Because Dickens is just blasting the English law courts.
Oh, interesting.
His narrator says at one point, as you're getting further into the book, the one great principle of the English law is to make business for itself. There is no other principle distinctly, certainly, and consistently maintained through all its narrow turnings. Viewed by this light, it becomes a coherent scheme, and not the monstrous maze the laity are apt to think it. Let them but once clearly perceive that its grand principle is to make business for itself at their expense, and surely they will cease to grumble.
Yeah. Well, I was talking with a friend yesterday at lunch, and we were talking about just kind of corporate America and the things that happen. And I said, the system produces what the system is designed to produce. And it sounds like this system is designed to produce stagnation.
It's designed to produce more and more income for the lawyers.
Right. Which means that your lawsuit gets bogged down for decades.
Yeah.
So these people that are waiting for their inheritance, are their lives at stake? I mean, are they reduced to poverty? Are they super rich people fighting it out over being more super rich?
Like none of them is really super rich. I mean, John Jarndyce has his own country estate, and he has a house which is called Bleak House.
Oh, okay.
He inherited that from his uncle, I think, who for years and years and years was involved in this lawsuit and never got to see it concluded. Right. and died with it. He had enough money to have this house, but he named the house Bleak House because of the bleakness of his life, because of the suit. And Jarndyce knows that, and he has deliberately kind of stepped out of it. He wants nothing to do with it. But the two distant cousins of his that have come to live with him, Richard and Ada, they're more interested. They're still young, and the longer they stay at his house and are in each other's company, they get closer and closer until they fall in love. And Richard wants to marry Ada.
Are they staying in Bleak House?
Yeah.
Okay.
And Ada wants to marry Richard, and Jarndyce says, Richard, you've got to get yourself some kind of an occupation first, because you don't have any money.
Right.
So you need to make a living before you can have a wife. And he tries medicine for a little bit, decides that's not for him. And he tries soldiering for a little bit, and then sells his commission. Doesn't want to do that. And then he tries the law, and he gets interested in the law because he's interested in the lawsuit. And Jarndyce keeps telling him, you've got to get your mind off of this, because the reason that he doesn't stick to anything, Richard, is that he figures when this lawsuit is finally settled, I'm going to have money. So I don't have to make money as a doctor.
While he's living in a house named for the soul-sucking nature of the lawsuit.
Yeah, exactly. And Jarndyce says to him, if you entertain the supposition that any real success in great things or in small ever was or could be, ever will or can be, wrested from fortune by fits and starts, leave that wrong idea here or leave your cousin Ada here. Basically tells him, stop counting on this. It's never going to happen, and you've got to...
you have to make a life without it.
Yes, and you can't marry Ada until you have a life. Well, of course, they get married behind his back.
Of course they do.
And Richard never changes.
Right.
And he gets more and more sucked into this suit, which everybody tries to talk him out of. So there are people like that who are hanging on.
So how is the commentary about the industrial age? Like, where is that coming into this?
There's another set of characters, one of whom named George, was in the army with the guy who wrote the note that Lady Dedlock was interested in.
Oh, right.
Whose name everybody thought, because this is the name he gave them, was Nemo. In other words, nobody.
Right.
He dies, by the way.
No spoilers.
Well, this is early in the book, actually, that he dies.
I'm trying, people. I'm trying.
George has a brother who is an iron worker who owns a factory up north. So he's made a success for himself in this world. His mother, and George's mother, is a long-time housemaid for Sir Leicester Dedlock. The ironmonger brother comes to Dedlock's house and wants to have his son marry this young maid that they have. What Dickens focuses on here isn't what he does in Hard Times. It's just the clash between the new and the old cultures.
Right.
I won't tell you how that comes out. But
Don't. But I can see what you're talking about, because the maid, right?
Yeah.
She's part of the past agrarian society in which the wealthy landowners had these houses that you could go in service and work for them, or you might be a tenant farmer and rent a house and whatever. Or now you're somebody who works in a factory or owns a factory. And
the Leicesters, particularly Sir Leicester, does not want his young maid marrying this guy's son because he thinks of her as much higher class than them, even though she's in service and he owns the factory.
Well, that sounds also, I mean, I'm an Anglophile, but that sounds very British. They have very, strong ideas on hierarchy and class.
Yeah.
Right? And that sounds like, that's new money, right?
Yeah.
And you are affiliated with old money.
Yeah.
Which your affiliation makes you too good for this guy.
Yeah. And what particularly gets under Sir Leicester's skin is that the ironmonger guy believes that the maid is not good enough for his son.
Right.
Because she doesn't have any education.
Oh, right.
And he says, my daughters, they go to school, they learn all this. And so he's not sure that it's going to be the best match either.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because Potok, in his novels, writes about the kind of the clash of culture that occurs between maybe Catholic Polish immigrants and Jewish immigrants in American cities, right?
Yeah.
Where their neighborhoods abut each other, or they're living around each other. And they don't speak the same languages. Their religious observations are different. Their assumptions and beliefs and prejudices about each other are apparent, right? And this is kind of similar, only it's the same racial group with the same kind of history, right? Like a shared national history, and yet they're forking off because of this place in this moment in time that's changing everything.
Yeah.
And the Lord, what's his name?
Sir Leicester.
Sir Leicester
Dedlock.
is like, no, I'm not having this, right? My world order is the world order, right?
Yeah.
And the factory owner is like, I have money and I'm doing things this way.
Mm-hmm.
And so, no, I'm not having your worldview, right? That's really fascinating that he's taking it not from like the Potok clash of cultures, but a kind of clash of the branches of history in the same country.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we haven't talked at all about Esther, the two main protagonists of the novel.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask you, because we've talked about so many different characters.
Are Lady Dedlock and Esther Summerson.
Okay.
And the novel alternates between stuff in Lady Dedlock's world and stuff in Esther's world. And one of the interesting things about the novel, I don't know that it's necessarily one of the reasons to love it, some people like it, some don't, is that there are two narrators.
Oh, that is interesting.
There's a third person, omniscient narrator who does all the Lady Dedlock stuff. And then there's Esther.
So it's first person.
She has a first person narration. And it's kind of jarring almost when you get to chapter 3 and suddenly there's this voice talking that wasn't talking before.
And that's the
it's
first
Esther.
person. So Lady Dedlock is the aristocracy, right?
Well, she is now. We don't know what her origins are. We know that she's in this noble house that has this long history of many generations of relatives, but nobody knows who Lady Dedlock's people were.
Okay. What about Esther?
Esther she's an orphan. She's raised by this aunt of hers. They don't have a lot of money. They're not. So
she's a Dickensian character.
She is.
Because he likes
the
focus
orphans.
a lot on the more marginalized and the people that have to, figure out their way every single day.
Yeah.
So
which is actually also applies to Lady Dedlock probably. Somehow she got Sir Leicester to marry her without having any family. And the narrator says something like Sir Leicester had enough for both of them.
Enough family?
They went back so far.
Well, that's interesting, though. The narrator for Lady Dedlock has a distance from her.
Yeah.
So it gives us, it's like a palimpsest, or there's something a film between you and her origins a little bit, between the reader and her origins.
Yeah.
Whereas with Esther, she's first person.
And she's very communicative.
Oh, how
she
funny.
tells you everything that you would want to know and all of the things she was feeling at all times. Lady Dedlock, never know. She's very secretive. You never know what her past is. Well, you do finally find out, but
she holds her cards close.
Very close. So it is interesting.
That's fascinating.
And once Esther starts her narrative, they begin to alternate. Sometimes you go back in time. You'll be told what happens in Lady Dedlock's world or the John Dice lawsuit world, and then you will hear what was going on with Esther at the same time. So, like maybe parallel. They do come together at some points. Lady Dedlock actually meets Esther at one point, and then they meet again at another point. But you don't know until pretty late in the book what the secrets are about Lady Dedlock. You know from the beginning anything that Esther knows. There's stuff she doesn't know that
Right.
about her parentage,
Right.
which we find out later on.
That's such an interesting choice.
But she's quite, as
a writer.
It was very interesting. It's the only time that
I would think it would be risky.
Yeah, it was new. It's the only time Dickens ever did it. It's the only female narrator he ever has in any of his books.
Oh, fascinating. Maybe that's why they chose it for sisters, because there's a female narrator.
Yeah. Readers have been divided about the success of the experiment. Vladimir Nabokov called Esther's narration his main mistake.
Oh.
So, but other people have called it a triumph, and you can decide for yourself. Esther's story becomes very interesting. She's got a few possible suitors early in the novel. There's a young man by the name of Guppy, which is how he always introduces himself, who's a law clerk who's very attracted to her and seems as if he's going to ask her to marry him. And there's a very poor but big-hearted and very professional doctor who has no money but seems like he would like to get her to marry him. But he has to leave the country on a ship where he's employed as a ship's doctor, heads for India. So
who knows if he's coming back?
Who knows? So she's got people who are interested in her. But then, exactly halfway through the book, right in the middle of the book, she contracts smallpox.
Oh, that's why that was a clue.
Yeah, and she survives the smallpox, but her face is marred with scars. So the result of the smallpox kind of impacts the suitors that she has.
Oh, okay.
As far as the lawsuit goes, and the satire of the legal profession, that's the main target. But the novel also targets the idea of philanthropy.
Oh, interesting.
Especially the kind that's practiced a lot in Victorian society. But particularly he's targeting showy philanthropy. We're told there were two classes of charitable people. One, the people who did little and made a great deal of noise. The other, the people who did a great deal and made no noise at all. Mm-hmm. And there are a couple of characters in the novel who are the first kind. There's one woman who's all about saving souls in Africa, who completely neglects her family,
right?
And her husband,
right?
And Dickens suggests this was probably some misplaced philanthropy, just to put on for show. There's another woman who likes to go to the houses of poor people and read the Bible to them.
I bet that was real helpful to them.
That was real helpful. Her name was Mrs. Pardiggle.
Oh, my goodness.
And the assumption is that the poor are immoral and they need Christian instruction. But she never actually knows the people that she tries to help.
When actually, I mean, the love of money is the root of all evil, right?
Yeah.
So if there's a moral atrocity, it's not from their poverty.
No. But there's a direct contrast between her and Esther, because Esther will go among the people, get to know them, is on missions of mercy all the time. In fact, the reason she contracts smallpox is that she brings a homeless child into the house to nurse him, and what he has turns out to be smallpox.
She puts herself at risk to help others.
Yeah, right. And she nearly dies because of it. So she's a character who is the most lovable character in the novel. Mm-hmm. And it's particularly interesting to see her change. I mean, the smallpox changes her on the outside, but it also changes her on the inside, because she has a renewed joy of living that comes out. Mm-hmm. She says, I found every breath of air and every scent and every flower and leaf and blade of grass and every passing cloud and everything in nature more beautiful and wonderful to me than I had ever found it yet. This was my first gain from my illness, how little I had lost when the wide world was so full of delight for me.
Oh, wow. Well, I'm glad that you warned me about the switch in the narrative voice because to me now, I mean, as a writer, to me, I find that fascinating. I think I might have been jarred by it if I didn't know it was coming.
Yeah.
Because I honestly, that shocks me. I would never expect that from Dickens.
No, or almost anybody else.
But
It's
now that I know
very
about it,
unusual.
I think I'm going to, and I kind of see the benefit of it and maybe the reason, you know, like I said, to keep a distance between the inner life of Lady Deadlock and the
Yeah.
reader,
Yeah.
and keep Esther, you know, there's no interlocutor between
Nope. She,
mind and
you and
and
Esther
mouth.
are like this.
Yeah, which, you know, that's a really interesting choice for him as a writer. And to me, as a reader, knowing about that in advance, actually, I think that would enhance my experience because I might not like it if I was surprised by it.
Yeah.
And had to sort myself out. Like, who's I? What is happening? So I appreciate knowing that in advance. I do think I really do want to read this. I mean, like I said, I've wanted to read it since Sisters. But then I think I found out it was 8 billion pages long.
Yeah.
But, you know, that's stupid because I read Gone with the Wind 6 times in high school.
Well,
So couldn't stop. Can't stop, won't stop. So I think I might be ready for Bleak House. So anything else that's lovable before we move on?
no.
That's it. There's nothing else lovable.
Well, we need to move on.
We do need to. We don't want to have a Bleak House length episode on Bleak House.
No, we don't.
Why might people not like it? I mean, we've kind of talked about that with the shift in the narrative.
Yeah, the shift in the narrative might
Point
put
of view.
people off.
The length.
The length might put people off.
What about the language? Do you think it's still accessible for contemporary readers?
Yeah. I mean, Dickens isn't Henry James. It's language that
Oh,
people
bless.
will use.
We're reading Turn of the Screw aloud, and even then, I'm like, you know, it is more plot driven than other James, but I'm just like, man, just say what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
So the language is not going to be an issue.
I don't think so.
Okay, so it's the length and the perspective shift.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think so.
Okay, awesome. All right, well, where are you going to rank this then? I'm very curious. Do the rank and then let me know. I have a follow-up question for you.
I'm putting this at number 19,
Oh, okay.
between Jane Eyre and The Great Gatsby.
So Jane Eyre is 18,
Yeah,
Bleak House, and then The Great Gatsby.
that's my ranking.
Wow, because I know Gatsby is very, very beloved. Well, it's on the list.
That's
it made
right.
the list.
They're all beloved.
Does this I can't remember. Does this outrank David Copperfield?
No,
Oh, okay.
he's
That
a
is
little
higher.
further up.
Oh,
Like
okay.
Maybe
All right.
13 or 14. Or
All right. Interesting, because I wanted to know how Dickens did against himself in his lovability.
Yeah.
Why do you prefer Copperfield to Bleak House?
I just have a more personal love for it.
Yeah.
Because of
Just affection.
just how it fit into my life at the time that I read it.
Yeah, well, understandable. And that is something I say to poetry students when I teach a poetry class that's literature, they're not writing poetry, but that, you know, you're going to have affection for some poems more than others, even if you respect all of them, right? And I like I'm forcing you to rank these according to your affection for novels that are already lovable. Like you
Yes.
already have affection for each one of these.
Yes.
And then you have to get kind of nitty gritty.
How
much
affection do you have?
Because that's the drama. All right. Well, this is great. I'm going to read it. I've really tanked on my reading goal for the year, so I might as well throw in Bleak House.
Yeah.
So I'm not
That
going to make
won't slow
the
you
goal.
down at all.
I'm not going to make the goal, so I might as well just, enjoy.
And speaking of which,
Yes.
it must be time for Chaos Reader.
It is. So it was my birthday this week, and my dogs got me a book from my wish list it's a novel called Star of the Sea by Joseph O'Connor. A ripping yarn, the New York Times says. I believe I must have put this on my list while we were in Ireland,
Must have.
but I don't remember how it came to my attention. But I'm taking a road trip next week to see some friends and family, and I'm going to take this book with me because I'm going to finish the Sinead O'Connor memoir before I go.
All
You
right.
heard it here first.
Okay.
And so I'm going to take Star of the Sea by Joseph O'Connor on my road trip and read it. Not while I'm driving, obviously.
Good.
And so I will let you know how I like it.
All right.
All right. So we'd like to thank as always, and even though we say it every week, we don't feel the gratitude any less for Jerry Bruno, our producing sensei, who has taught us how to do this ourselves. So we really appreciate that. That was a tough row to hoe, and he is doing it. And we'd also like to thank all of our listeners and our YouTube viewers and our subscribers everywhere. It's really amazing to us that we have listeners, and it's such a joy to us that we have listeners and viewers every week. So please tell your book-loving friends about our podcast, and we'll see you next week.
Between the covers.